What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into The Standard. Today, our guest is my first coach and one of my biggest mentors, Matt Rasmussen. He coached at Mountain View for 19 years, Twin Falls before that. In this episode, you're going to hear a ton about how much of an influence he had on off the field, how big of an influence that he had on me, myself. He's going to teach you how to compete. I'm super excited about this episode. So, man, the year I was your pitching coach in Legion, my first year coaching, that was probably the most fun I've ever had in sports. Changed my life, made me change my degree. How'd you let me coach pitching when I wasn't even that great of a pitcher for you, man?
We needed somebody, man. We needed somebody. No, I could see it early with you, Taylor, when you were at Mountain View. When the school opened up, you were a freshman. You were the first class that went through for 4 years, right? By the time you were a senior, you could see that you were going to be a great coach. You were very motivated. You were a program guy. You just had all the intangibles. You know, you had the heart, the desire, the will to be better. A good coach isn't always about ability, and you had some ability too, but it's about just the relating with kids and pushing yourself and the kids to get better at whatever they do. And you had that fire at an early age, and I know you're doing what you do now here at Off the Field, but if you would have stayed with coaching, you would have been a hell of a coach down the road too. I know that's what you do now, but on the field you would have been hanging banners, man.
Yeah. Well, I still don't think the baseball chapter is completely done. That's always a dream of mine to come back and maybe have a chance to come back with you one of these days. But that year you coached single A. So I think that was your first year you went back to single A, and I didn't make sense to me, especially with a guy I always looked up to, but now you're going to coach the younger group. Looking back to realize how selfless that was and like zero ego that was. Obviously we had a good squad, but I mean that year, that was the most fun ever. We were the youngest single A team, one of the youngest single A teams in that state tournament. We lost game one to a guy who graduated with me. He's 19, throwing against 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
We battled all the way back in the state championship, playing Lewis and Clark, I think, because that was our single A team. We were down by 10. You had me hit 3 guys in a row because they tried to squeeze into 10 runners. But then we ended up losing by one run.
I don't remember that.
But we almost came back and won. You know what I mean? But I always look back at it, and it's like some people talk about, even the people that have like the most money or the boss, like, hey, I'm the boss, I just pay you to do this. Or it's like, I'm the coach, the younger guys do this. Like the fact that you came back and did that, you never shied away from the work. I mean, did you even realize you were doing that? Or, I mean, what made you think that you should be coaching that young team going up? Because that wasn't the only year you coached a single A team either.
No, I always felt it was year by year. In my 25 years as a high school coach, it was every summer you just evaluate where you're at from a returning varsity standpoint and what you had underneath. And sometimes you had varsity assistants that, for one, really appreciated the chance to be the head guy. And so you're throwing them a bone. And then for two, I really wanted to go down and see what we had below because I hadn't spent a lot of time with those kids and see, for one, develop, kind of teach them the system that we played at that time at Twin Falls or Mountain View. And just to kind of see where we were from a talent perspective and put in some of our offensive and defensive plays or, I guess, program philosophy, if you will, and I just thought it was very beneficial to have your thumb on every player in the program, not just the top 15, 16 kids.
Yeah, that year I was pre-med, pre-PT, and then I coached that year, I think, just because, I don't know if you asked or if I just did it, but like in that changed the whole trajectory. I mean, that year changed my degree. That was like literally one of the most fun seasons ever. It was so cool. And game away from the state title, and then I got to coach the head single A team for the next couple of years, which was awesome. A lot of those guys that still work, Augie, who's our GM, and Cody Riley and all those boys. I got to bring those guys up. Yeah. Our first year at Mountain View, 2003, 2004, that year.
Shit. We were terrible.
So that's what I'm going to ask you. We were absolutely awful. 9 freshmen on varsity, whatever. We had a 60-man, one Legion team, 60 guys on one team, whatever we had. It was a weird roster. Remember how you had a huge roster? But you came from a team that was in the state title and then came to us, and it came to the ballpark was built terrible. The ball, you know what I mean? And
right.
Which, like what you see now is something you built. It was not like that. You know what I mean? what would you have done different now, looking back at it? You know what I mean? If you have a chance to take over a new program or you see yourself doing something like that, what would you have done differently if you look back at that?
That's been a minute, man. But I remember in 2003, I was the head coach at Twin Falls High School when they were still 5A, and we played Eagle in the state championship and lost a pretty competitive game. And I was scheduled to open up Mountain View's program in that fall, and our first season would be the 2004 season.
Right.
And it was hard going from a championship caliber team. I think we won 2 games my first year at Mountain View, and we were lucky to win the 2 games. I mean, we were not good. We didn't have a facility. We didn't have any varsity experience.
None.
It was maybe one kid came over from Bishop Kelly.
And one Meridian guy, too. He was good.
Yeah, he was good. He was our best player.
Yep. Ward or something.
Yeah, Justin Ward.
Yep.
Then we had, Justin Mace that pitched a little bit for us as a senior. He was pretty good, too. But at the end of the day, we couldn't keep up with the 5A teams. And the cool thing, it's not cool now, but when I look back at it, we got run ruled 17 times in 2004 and only won 2 games. And it was at the end of the season, it was gut check time. I'm like, what did I do? Why did I move here? What's going on? So we just started crossing things off the list. We upgraded our facility. We put batting cages in, built bullpens, built a new backstop, built a practice infield.
Got the goat heads out of the dirt.
Got the goat heads. I mean,
it was a city park.
But yeah, it was not good. But I think if you went out there today, you could see, the labor of love has turned into a pretty good high school facility. Got the indoor facility now. A lot of things we got done there. We built a nice entryway. I'm very proud of what Mountain View's facility turned into. But you could see the growth in 2004. We played again. We only won 3 games the next year. But we didn't get run ruled, not even once. So you could see the growth, and I could feel it as a coach. I'm like, okay, we're making a difference. Things are turning the corner. The freshman class that started out, they were going to be juniors the next year, and then we're 1 game from the state tournament as juniors, and we're in the state tournament as seniors. So, and then from then on, I mean, Mountain View baseball has been kind of a staple in the playoff scene around here, it was hard in the beginning, but all the hard work paid off, and now it's just a matter, it was a matter of keeping it at that level. So you keep grinding, find new ways to get better. We joined up with you guys. I think, what year was that when you guys started training? We were your first high school team.
I was going to ask you that too. You were our first team.
Yeah.
And again, I was never the most athletically gifted guy. Like for me, when I came in and said, "Hey, I'm going to train your team," and we had no one else. I mean, was it out of pity?
It was a great idea because I sure as hell didn't want to do it. So it was, and I think
did you do it because it was just me? Like, sure, I guess I'll let you do it. Or
no, you had a good sales pitch, man. You were polished when you came in and talked to me. I didn't know it was going to turn into what you've turned it into today. I thought maybe this will last for a couple of years. Kids burn out. I think we talked about burnout. Doing the same thing over and over, but your brand is big now. You got a reputation. You got all kinds of programs and different schools from the college level, high school level. You got pro athletes coming back. So what you've turned this into is amazing. We were glad to get in early, and I start again next spring at a new school, but we're going to bring you guys in and keep it going.
Yeah. So, I mean, because you brought it there. What's the philosophy now? It's tough for me because I have been out of the game. Like last time I coached was with you, and I feel like some of the guys we had in the area were pretty similar. Like maybe little differences and other thing, but like I saw, it was just like it was a little more, I guess, old school. Like if you go with Jake Taylor, Russ Wright, even at Treasure Valley. Now Russ, took over Hawaii. To me, the difference I saw from him from other programs, we work with all the coaches, and everybody's, to me, is awesome, but it's like the small ball way that he plays. And to me, even with you looking back at it, it's not small ball. It's not just bunting and getting a guy over. It was like always doing the little things right. Like we wore the same gear all the time. We had to look the same all the time. It was never one guy could look one way or act one way and the rest of the guys couldn't. Even when we had a TCU guy compared to the rest of us fighting to make a junior college squad. You know what I mean?
Right.
you treated us all the same, whether that was good or bad. You held us to the same standard. I was late one time. I don't know if you remember this, but I was I was late one time in 9 seasons with you, a regular season in Legion. You made me run for 3 hours. You know what I mean? And you just
I don't know about 3 hours.
It was an entire practice. Did you ever have a practice less than 3 hours?
Yeah, probably not.
It was probably the most I've ever ran in my life. But then you just said, hey, we just talked about it, and you were like, if I didn't make you do that, what would that set the example for the rest of the team? And I was so pissed at you when I was running, and I don't know why that didn't occur to me. But once you told me that, I was like, all right, he's right. But
let me ask you, were you late again?
I had like 12 games left in my 9 years with you.
You weren't late again.
No, I wasn't late. And now I sound like one of my guys making an excuse. No, I was late, and you just looked at me and you couldn't believe it, and you just said hit it, and I thought I was going to run some pulls, and I ran for 3.5 hours. Well, anyways, besides that, that philosophy that you have as far as we sprinted everywhere. I saw it the later years, they weren't sprinting, but they like you used to make us sprint, but they were still running. You know what I mean? To me, it's like the little things that I see some teams in any program, not just baseball, but any program. It's like that's the difference between a team that wins and a team that doesn't. We were so shitty that I feel like you had to make us do these little things. Or is that, even if we weren't shitty, was that always the standard that you had?
I was lucky. I grew up. I played for some really good coaches in my youth. Bill Ingram at Twin Falls High School, Mike Federico, Sean Humberger were my 2 summer coaches. And through my youth, I learned a lot of those philosophies, and they're the ones that really, I guess for me, I don't know. My memories are great from my youth, and because of those 3 guys, Bill Ingram, Mike Federico, and Sean Humberger, that's the reason I wanted to become a coach. And so the philosophies that they had were kind of what I started out with when I was coaching, and attention to detail, all the small things, team baseball, discipline, accountability, all those things. I thought when I was 15, 16, didn't make a lot of sense to me, but down the road, it started to click, and I realized what they were trying to do, and we were able to win and accomplish so much more on the field. We could beat teams with more talent that were individuals or eye guys, and our team brand we would upset guys all the time, upset teams all the time just by running hard 90s or not missing signs, getting on and off the field, because it's not like a light switch. You can't just turn it on when you want to. It's got to be go all the time, and then when you're asked to make a play, or maybe you got a little extra range on a ground ball, kept it in the infield because that was the expectation in practice. You lay out, you dive. You never know what you're going to – maybe you just knock the ball down, but it saves a run. Little things like that, playing catch the right way, all things that are important, looking the same on the field. Can't stand – it's really hard for me to watch teams with you got guys with pants up, pants down. You got, sunglasses on the back of your head on the field. They're not even on your face. The whole accessorizing thing has gotten blown up, which I know kids are different, and sometimes you have to pick your battles. But, God, if you're going to take sunglasses on, put them on your damn head, or don't take them out there. They're a distraction. But some of that old school stuff I still think translates today. And like I said, you got to pick your battles. But the core philosophy of team baseball and doing little things the right way, I always coach that way. And when I, get back in next year, I'll continue to use those same methods and philosophy to hopefully keep winning games.
Do you remember when you took our batting gloves away?
Yeah, I do.
Middle of an inning?
Yeah, well, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, right, for one, it's like, do you really need batting gloves? It's like just another thing for parents to buy.
Especially without wood bats. We had leather grips.
But no, I'm not, and whatever. Kids can wear batting gloves, but the problem is when you get to first base and then you're taking 30 seconds to take them off and stuff them back in your pocket, and you can't get a sign in, you can't get everybody on the same page. It delays the game. Then everybody's eyes on you, and they're more likely to pick a sign or whatever. You're just trying to get the sign in and run the offense. Yeah. And you got some guys that are like rain delay over there with the batting gloves. You know, they get to first and they got to take them off. They got to put them in one pocket because in the other pocket they got their base stealing gloves. You got to get those out, put those on because they don't hit with those. They only steal bases with those. Some of that stuff drives me nuts, but you know, like pick your battles, right?
To me, just for everybody listening, we were mid at bat and somebody was adjusting it at the plate. You called time, grabbed a trash can, brought us all over, made us all throw them in the trash can in the middle of a game. Had some pissed off parents, and we didn't wear I think that was like middle of high school. We didn't get to wear them all the way through Legion, and then the next year you would let us put them back on. But I always think about these kids. They're like, "Oh, my coach was on my ass today, or doing something like this." And like you just said, when you were 15 or 16, you don't even realize what your coaches are trying to do.
Right.
You know, even like then too, that didn't make sense to us. But it's like it was those little things, especially with how little talent we had. And then when we actually were older and we were better, those little things just made it like we were just so much farther ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when you go watch it, I remember watching that Bora, you know, the Little League World Series team when Jake Taylor was still there, that really, really good team, you know, with like Champ and McGrady and Jones, Gaston, those guys. You would tell us just watch their in and out. And it was so aggressive. They all did the same thing. They wore the same gear. And it was like, it set the tone for us. You knew we were trying to compete with them, but we were also ninth graders. So we were going to compete, but we were watching like this is how the game's supposed to be played. You know what I mean? And I think we took pride in that as we got older, you know what I mean?
Right.
We realized like we wanted when people showed up and watched us sprint, got the ball across the diamond, you know what I mean? Showed like they would have all this gear, we would look the same. It almost turned into a pride thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
That I think that where once you realize why we're doing it and when you do it right, how much better it does make the team. I think it's like one of those things where it's hard to see in the moment, but you do see later.
Yeah. Well, backing up to the batting glove thing, yes, I may have mid at bat.
That was hilarious.
Had a little episode, if you will, but you know, we had implemented and talked about and worked out at a practice, and I've always felt like there's a guy up to hit, there's a guy on deck, there's a guy in the hole, and we have what we call a four-spot guy. So the double on deck guy, the fourth guy up in the inning, right? That's where you take care of that business. And if you get up to the plate and you don't have your batting gloves ready to go or whatever, then you haven't done your job. You know, in the hole, you haven't done your job on deck. And so I think that was my frustration, right? It's like you're so focused on something. You haven't even seen a pitch. You have no rhythm. You have no timing. You have no idea what the pitcher's even going to throw. So that kind of stuff, you know, to win baseball games, I think you got to lock in. We call it a four spot for a reason. You take care of all of your gadgets and protective equipment or whatever it is. By the time you step in the hole, all you're doing is watching pitches and getting rhythm and timing. And so we had spent time at practice doing that. Game time comes.
We would practice it.
And it, it wasn't executed, so I had a right to be mad. You know? So,
yeah, I think, going back to the small ball, like, you know, Russ comes back out of retirement. Mm-hmm. I don't know how close you guys were at all because we didn't play them a bunch. We didn't talk about it much when I played with you, but again, the way I saw him carry himself, we got to work with their team when they first started. Like it was like he was so how early they are, how everything matters, how the field mattered. You know, he came to a brand new school where the field wasn't pretty either. He was, you know, Roy was like, man, Russ is on me. But I mean, it was like because he knew the field had to be a certain way for them to be able to play the way he wanted to do it. You know what I mean? And then he wins 3 straight titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, it was just kind of like a testament to what he does. You know, especially his first year, he had a young group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to do things right.
Yeah.
You know, you're now taking over Hawaii, right? Which is awesome. Why now? Why are you coming back? And then and two, like what are you excited to build off from there?
That's a good question. I've been out for 2 years.
It's only been 2. Feels like it's been a long time.
My last year at Mountain View was 22.
Okay.
My youngest son, Brody, had graduated from high school. And now I had my older son, Brooks, and Brody both playing in the NWAC. And I just didn't know how I was going to get to enough games. I wanted to be a dad. And so I spent that first year out when they were both in the NWAC, traveling up to the Tri-Cities or Pendleton and watching baseball as much as I could. I caught 40-something games, you know, that first year that I was out.
Heck yeah.
I felt good. The other piece, I have a daughter as well, and she's a club soccer player, and she's younger, but she doesn't go to her home school. She goes to a school where my wife's a teacher.
Oh, okay.
And so she would go to school with my wife, elementary school, and she didn't have a ride home. And for the 5 years that my boys were in high school, I just wasn't much help. And so the 2 years I took off allowed me to watch my sons play for 2 years now, and I got to be a soccer dad for a couple years, pick my daughter up from school and get her delivered to and from practice and watch some soccer games. Both boys are still playing baseball, but now they're both so far away. Brooks is in Denver, and my other son is trying to decide where he's going to end up. But they're not just a car drive away. So those trips, when I go watch them play, will have to be planned. I can still coach high school baseball and watch my kids play on a couple weekends during the year.
Heck yeah.
And my daughter now is going to walk to and from Sawtooth Middle School, so I don't have to pick her up. So the timing for me is good to get back in. I work at the building. I'm a PE teacher at Owyhee High School, and I don't have after-school obligations. And so the fit, stepping into shoes like Russ Wright's is a tall order. I mean, he's kind of the GOAT, man. He's been around for a long time. He's a legend. Have a lot of respect for him. For me to come out and take on a job like this, the foundation, the things I believe in are in place. It's not like I have to go rebuild a culture. I just got to keep it maintained because all the things I believe in are things that he believes in too. We go back a long time. In fact, we coached against each other. He was the head coach at Minico High School. I was the head coach at Twin Falls High School. And we would go at it. We had the two best team. We'd go back at it then. In fact, I was going through, I had to apply for this Owyhee job and had to go through the interview process and put together an application and submit letters of reference and all that. Here's the funny part is I keep this file in my office. I opened it up to find a letter of recommendation, which I haven't applied for a job for 25 years, but Russ Wright, with Treasure Valley Community College letterhead, had written me a letter of recommendation for the Mountain View job when it opened, and he had written a nice letter on my behalf because we had coached against each other to support me in getting hired over here at Mountain View. So that was pretty cool.
That's
go
awesome.
Back a long ways, yeah. So I'm excited, for the opportunity. Nervous because winning 3 straight state championships is a tough act to follow. But his program and everything that he built, I just hope keep it going. Like I said, the culture piece, knowing how to win and paying attention to detail, doing the small things, he's already taken care of a lot of that.
Yeah.
So my job is to not let that go away or sink, but to keep the expectations high like he did, and hopefully he's proud of what he sees on the field next spring.
I think, too, it's like a little bit of that whole program. I mean, it's some of the old guys. Cliff Rice, obviously running the show there is one of the best humans I've ever been around.
Correct, yeah.
And Dane Roy does a great job. I mean, Judd's over there. I mean, it's a cool old squad for me. All you guys coached me before Cliff was even in principal,
Right. So, yeah, a lot of Mountain View roots.
Yep.
When that school opened up, anytime a new school opens up, there's a shakeup and things based on who gets hired. And, yeah, Cliff Rice was a good friend of mine at Mountain View. He was when Mountain View opened up, he was my freshman baseball coach.
He coached me.
Yeah. And so then he worked his way up from a teacher coach to an athletic director, vice principal, and then he was an obvious choice to open up a new school. And then Judd Benedict, amazing human being and football coach at Mountain View. He went over to Owyhee as a vice principal. And then Dane Roy, when Mountain View opened, was a teacher there. And then he's gone through the coaching ranks and obviously did a really good job at Rocky Mountain with the basketball program. And he does a fantastic job as the AD over there. So it's a good school to be at. Not that Mountain View wasn't. Just for me, it was a good time for change when my son graduated.
Yep.
And if I wasn't going to coach at Mountain View, it was awkward to be there.
Yeah.
For a couple reasons. For one, there's a new coach there, Justin Schneid. And Justin worked with us for a year, but I don't think it was really fair to him to stick around. And he just needed to be on his own and do his own thing, put his own brand on Mountain View baseball, which he's done a good job with. And then hard for me on a personal level to be around the kids. Baseball season rolls around and they're wearing their new hoodies and their new hats, and that would have been too hard for me to swallow. So when there was an opening for me to go teach at Owyhee, it just made sense.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
the philosophy that I got from you, and again, it was really cool because I knew I wanted you on this podcast, even though I knew these are things that you don't love doing. But right when we first started, and I told the guys I wanted it, and now that I heard you were getting this job, I was like, okay, I got to get him on. But the philosophy to me that you taught us more than anything was how to compete. Like, I've always been really competitive. I think my dad really instilled that in me, you know what I mean? Like, in everything. Like, it didn't matter what we were doing. Like, who could, I mean, rock, paper, scissors. Didn't matter. You know what I mean? If I lost at rock, paper, scissors, I'd be pissed off for a week. I always joke with my, but
that's why we get along, because I'm the same way.
But it was like, just like how you put it on so many of us and to another level, to where it would weed out some kids, but it wasn't like, it was like we competed so hard where it's like, we only had 5 guys that wanted to be there. It was like we were all there, and you would always talk about like the will to compete. And I still think about it. Like, it annoys me when people tell me, "Oh, you're too competitive at these things." Like, it's like, man, then what is life about? Like, everything should be trying to win. Doesn't mean you have to treat everybody like shit, but you should always be trying to do your best or trying to compete. You know what I mean? Even like you said, that year 2 we didn't get 10 run, but we were competing. We were just 15 years old against the 18-year-olds. You know what I mean? Where it was like we were competing as hard as we possibly could. You know what I mean? Or times we weren't, you would let us know. And it was every BP session. Not even the whole session. It was every round that we got. You know, we knew exactly what hacks we had, and it was like if we had a bad approach, like all of like, again, to our attire, to when we showed up, to what we made the other team look like, how they felt. You know what I mean? That competition, it's so hard now to me with these kids, and some kids I think want to compete, but it's almost like that fear of failure, and it's like a pattern that we hear when we talk on this. But like, how many kids? It's like almost if we try so hard but they don't win, it's going to look bad on them, whether it's social media or whatever. You know, so they're almost too scared to compete. Even your last years at Mountain View, you still had those guys competing and working their asses off. You know what I mean? And I know it was a struggle for you. You know what I mean? How do you even realize that you're teaching that? And then if you do, like, how do you get these kids to just want to compete? I mean, when I think about Rasmussen, more than anything, it was like everything we did was compete. Everything. Always. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. That's a hell of a compliment. But at the end of the day, I've always felt like, you know, if you're going to run a practice and you're trying to win baseball games, you know, or no matter what sport you're playing, the competition level at practice, whether it was batting practice or fielding ground balls, or it had to be high pressure, high stakes. The bullpens are just not to throw. It's you know, they should be competitive. Find a way to make practice competitive at all times, and so when it is game day, the kids are used to competing and used to tight situations and coming through in times that matter. Clutch moments are done all throughout the week, because ultimately the way our league is set up, or the way it has been set up, there could be some changes on the horizon, but you know, you get rewarded. Right, so if you finish first or second in the league, man, you punch your ticket to the state tournament. So every time you take the field in SIC action, that win-loss does matter. I mean, it's not that, you know, you have a backdoor way to get into the state tournament, but man, the district tournament is something. If you can avoid it, you want to avoid it, because the baseball league, in comparison to other sports, is much deeper than some of the other sports that are top-heavy. Baseball, you can get snake bitten by anybody at any time. It's the pitching thing that is the equalizer. Yeah. So I always felt like competing at practice equated to a team that wouldn't quit and would give it everything they had on game day. So that was the reason for that.
But when you get pushback from the kids, you know what I mean? Like how
more so now.
So how do you deal with that?
And a lot of it, I think, is, and you try to step outside the box and you try to look in from the outside and figure, why is it so hard to get kids, different? They're raised different a little bit. There is. This is not a bash against club baseball, because there's a lot of good things that club baseball serve a purpose for. But at the end of the day, there's no playoff system. The games don't matter if you win or lose. Right.
More an individual focus, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you show up, you go home, you don't put a rake in your hands hardly ever. You show up 10 minutes before. As soon as practice is over, you take your cleats off and you go home. And you know, if not just in club ball, but any facet of life where that's your approach, and then you come and play in a program that wants more, demands more, Yeah, it can be a struggle at times, and you get buy-in from hopefully most of the kids, and you're always going to have a little bit of pushback. But I don't know why. I mean, it used to be a little bit easier to get kids to respond when you wanted them to do something than it is now. But a few side conversations, a little one-on-one talk, a little reason, give everybody your why, what you're doing.
Yo, okay, I like it.
And then hopefully you come back with, it's always fun to have a guy like yourself who used to play in the program maybe come in and say something positive about, this is why he did what he did. And now I get it.
Right.
So having I guess an alumni base that, we have a lot of guys that come or have worked for you or worked with you, or we have, you talk to a lot of the kids that play in our program and always say positive things. And so that reinforcement helps too. The kids are willing to put forth a little more effort when they hear that there's a good reason behind it, long-term reason behind it. So.
Yeah, I had to the guys we played with, like Harrington, I told him you were coming on. He couldn't believe it. I told him right away when you were getting the job. Hibbard, Hibbard was one of the guys that had the most talent, and he was a guy you had to kind of, I was trying to drag his ass to practice most of the time, you know what I mean? He was my neighborhood guy, but I knew he was way more talented than me, but he looks back at it now, and there's a lot of things you wish he would have done differently if he'd have listened, you know what I mean? Which is cool. I think he's gone through his ups and downs coaching. They're having a really good year finally this year, you know what I mean? Which is really cool for him. But yeah, it's crazy to see the guys that I feel like that did buy into that competition thing and how much you've changed their lives. I want to hire most of the guys that have played for you. You know what I mean? I look back at it, it's like guys that I coached when they were Mountain View baseball guys, but they were your guys too. Cody and Augie and
got this place rolling.
Garv, all those boys, they built us. You know what I mean? Which is cool. I think one of the coolest competition stories, and you might not even remember this, but I think I've told my wife this, and she laughs at me and says, "Hell no!" But you had the one toy philosophy, where you would give Brooks and Brody one toy, and whether you did that or not, or whether you just told us that, like I always took it to heart, to where it was like, you have one ball, one bat, and one glove. And like you figure out what you want, like whoever gets to do it. I remember I was like a senior or a junior, and I'm watching them. They were young, and they were throwing they had a wiffle ball, and it was like they were playing catch but hitting a baseball. Brody was throwing it, Brooks hitting it back to him in a cage, and I'm like, not one of us could do that. And we were, you know what I mean? It was crazy. You know what I mean? I might have even been coaching because they weren't even. But I remember just looking over then there, and they just had one ball and one bat, and they're just hitting it to each other like it was just normal to just hit a ball in the air back to somebody. But you always like they had one toy. Whoever wins and gets it. You know what I mean? So I told my wife I'm gonna do that with my kids because they're similar age gaps too. You know what I mean? And my wife said no chance. But,
no chance.
But I'm trying to build that a little bit. But that again, that competition thing, you know what I mean? I think that's what built. I had no talent, but I always competed, and I think it was that first year. It was you just bled that in us, you know what I mean? And it was, I think your whole staff too, like that whole crew. I don't know if it's because we were all so young, whatever it was, but there was just like everything. I don't know if you guys had to raise it up because you knew how terrible we were, but just looking back at a lot of those guys too, you know what I mean? At the success they've had too, just because I think that you instilled that in us, it was crazy.
Well, when Mountain View, there were a lot of eyes on us when the school opened, right? And it was kind of hard for me because we had some success at the football level out of the gate. We had some success on the, with Bauer and those guys, the basketball.
Yep, Bauer played both.
Right out of the gate. And then here comes baseball, sport number 3, third season of the year, and we were terrible. So it was a little hard to swallow. I'm a competitive guy, and the only way to get better, in height, whoever walks through your door is your team, right?
Yeah.
And so, so we just raised the bar and asked a lot more of ourselves from a coaching perspective, and it trickled down to you guys. And like I said, within year 3, we had a program to be pretty proud of.
Yeah, we put some hours in building out. Every time I walk over there, people are, I probably tell the same story, but we put the slats in, we built that dugout, we built those sheds my dad built, the batting cage, the nets, and all of that. You know what I mean? None of that was there. It was
right.
That was a chain link.
And I got in trouble, man. I got in trouble for building stuff because
I remember.
I didn't understand the right procedures on how to.
But it was like if you go to Bear Creek Park, it was a chain link It was a city park is what I felt like it was, what it was like before we got there.
There's still another chain link backstop there. It's on what they call the JV, or a little practice field. That was the same backstop, but on the game field that we, It was kind of fun, though, getting together with a group of coaches and some parents that were willing to help and on weekends and doing projects like that. And then the finished product was always the thing, right?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, so it was cool.
Yeah, last thing on the competition thing, and that first team we ever coached. So we were playing, it was Timberline, but we were playing Timberline to go to to get into the state tournament at the end there. And I threw 2 first pitch fastballs on 2 hitters. And all year you never told me how to call pitches. After the game we would talk and we would chat and we'd figure out things we'd do differently. But it's in the middle of the game, and you said if you throw another first pitch fastball, you're going to kick me out of the dugout. And I was in front of the players. And then so I threw 3 guys on the next pitch curveball because our kid didn't have a third pitch. He didn't even have a curveball, which is why I was throwing a fastball. But then he told me if I threw another first pitch curveball, you're going to kick me out of the dugout. And I remember sitting there with Wolf and the other guys. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I was like, because we were stressing. But we won that game. But I just, again, it was cool for me to be, I remember, and again, it was like, I think it was the best thing for me while I was playing college too, to go coach with you, because then it was, when you start getting on the coaching side of things, it's way more stressful. I think because it's like you have so much control of the game instead of your one piece that you're doing when you're playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you also have no control. It's like a weird, what this should be happening. You know what I mean? And you can't.
You're part of the game, but you're not part.
Yes.
Of it.
Yeah.
So, but that's the rush that you get when you are coaching, and it's the reason why it's so fun to be part of. I mean, you celebrate, you lose with the kids, you win with the kids, but just the rush of, the play that you call or the pitch that you call does impact the game.
Yeah.
And, it's, I guess, similar to maybe like a football coach calling the wrong play or the right play in a tough situation. Baseball is no different, except that every single pitch can change the outcome of a game. Or, an inning can change, momentum can change. If you, maybe steal a base when you shouldn't have, get thrown out or get picked off. And so that part of the coaching thing is super fun for me. It's like the strategy piece of it, which I've always enjoyed and study and learn from others. And it's super cool, super fun.
When you were competing, I got to ask you too. We supposedly saw it in the newspaper when I was younger or something. But when you played at Twin Falls, did you really only strike out once in your high school career? What's that stat? You can brag about it on here. You struck out one time in 4 years?
Well, I'm like a dinosaur, man.
Shut up. That was a long time. You struck out one time in varsity in 4 years.
We had a good team at Twin Falls.
But you still had a ton of you were Gatorade Player of the Year?
Yep. Well,
State Player of the Year?
Yeah. It was called the Idaho Tops Player of the Year.
And you didn't
1990, man.
Did you ever strike out?
I did strike out one time as a junior. It was awful.
One time?
It was awful. We won state championship in 88 and 90, so I didn't pull the three-peat like Hawaii just did. But 89 was probably our most talented team, but we got beat in a semifinal game. I think we lost. Yeah, it was Centennial over at the College of Idaho. What was now their football stadium? Yeah. So, but yeah, that was fun. We had a very well coached team. Old school, disciplined team that a lot of talent. I think we had 10 guys my senior year going to college to play baseball. So I had guys in front of me that could hit, guys behind me that could hit, and that made it a little easier for me as a high school player to see pitches to hit.
But still, what was your mindset then? Like that, that's insane. You're downplaying it a little bit, but to only have 1K. And it's to start and play. It wasn't 1K with 5 at-bats. It was like being the player on the team.
I'm kind of old school, man, where today's player, they don't care if they swing and miss or, strikeouts no big deal type thing. I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time watching my own kids strike out. I remember. I coached them. Holy cow. It's I got to watch, over the last 2 years, I've watched a lot of college baseball, and I think I'm a terrible fan I feel bad for my 2 boys because, if I'm visiting them and, you're just supposed to hug on them and love them because you don't see them very often. So you go visit them once every 2 months, watch them play a game, and the first thing I want to do is rip into the game. And it's like, what the hell were you doing? What were you expecting him to throw that pitch? And I can't believe you missed it by 6 inches. So I feel my kids have thick skin because they've listened to me a lot that way. I just can't help it. But yeah, I don't know, that competitor in me. I mean, to me, it's you and the pitcher, and anything you can do to not lose that battle is. I mean, that's the greatest battle of all time, man. You and a pitcher, and you can't. I don't know. I don't know how you lose that battle. I mean, it's insane to me that someone that's competitive could get beat consistently by the same dude 2 at-bats, 3 at-bats. I don't get that. But I don't know. I'm old school. It meant a lot to me. I want it to mean a lot to my kids. I want it to mean a lot to my team, my players. That we're playing high school baseball. This is not professional level baseball where people say swinging and missing doesn't matter because they rather have you not just put the ball. Well, in high school baseball, you put the ball in play instead of go back to the dugout without forcing the defense to make a play. To me, that's hard baseball, right? Or not good baseball. You to put pressure on defense, there has to be action. You have to put the ball in play. And sometimes high school defenses make errors. They make mistakes. They'll drop a ball, kick a ground ball, throw a ball away. And so there is a benefit, with runners in scoring position to maybe put the ball in play. You might advance 90 feet. You might score a run. They might make an error. It might turn into a big inning. But if you strike out 2-3 times an inning, it's pretty hard to win a baseball game.
Yeah. What was the best team that you've ever coached? And maybe it's 2019 when we won the title, but what was the best team as far as like culture, competitiveness, and like what were the patterns that why did it make them that? And like how do you replicate something like that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think every coach, they go through ups and downs when you're in it long enough. Especially at Mountain View, we didn't have a lot of talent out of the gate, but eventually we got. We would only have maybe 50 guys at our tryout, but if we had 3 or 4 good players per senior class, per junior class, we felt we could put a pretty good product on the team. We didn't have tons of depth. Getting into like 17, 18, 2019. 2019 was definitely out of my 25 years, that was the best team I've ever coached from top to bottom for pitching depth, middle infield, behind the plate. Ability to run down a ball in the outfield. It was and buy-in. I mean, every kid bought in, even the kids that weren't playing as much as others. They were great teammates, supportive, cheered on their teammates. We had a good parent group. We didn't have a lot of parents that tried to make things miserable. Not a lot of complaining because their son wasn't playing as much as maybe some of the other kids. But I'm sure that stuff still happened. But that was the team where there was less of that.
Why do you think that buy-in was there on that team?
Well, a lot of the group had played together for a real long time, which was nice. They came kind of through together. That was a big senior class, and we had some younger kids mixed in. And then we had a really talented player, Riley Harrison, on that 2019 team that some of you might remember, but he got in the playoffs. He got hit in the head.
Yeah.
Line drive, and it was one of the scariest moments that anybody had ever seen. And then it became larger than a baseball game at that point. It became, here's one of our brothers, one of our loved ones, teammate, great family, and it just, it really brought everyone together. And it really sucks that sometimes it takes an injury like that to put things in perspective, but for us, there's never anything good about someone getting hurt. But one thing, I guess, an effect that had on us was that nobody was going to stop us at that point. We were so tight, and we all lived it together, and we had to, we all saw it happen, and we all had to watch him lay on the ground, and only us as a group had those emotions. I mean, we were playing Rocky Mountain. They might have had some, residual effects as well. But for us, it was just, I don't know. It was a moment that, this is just a game, man. We have someone that is very important to us laying on the ground. So put baseball aside. Let's make sure, this guy's taken care of. And something like that happens, and a team experiences something like that. It was just the tightest group of young men and even families all came together, and it was really neat to have Riley there when we won the state championship and to see the celebration of, parents and kids and girlfriends, brothers and sisters. We had a big old mob of people out there on Hawk Stadium on that night. We beat Capital for the title.
Yeah, and Riley was also one of the best players.
100%.
He was a great kid, but he was also one of the most, was he one top 3 hitter in the lineup, right?
Yeah, top 3 hitter, probably our biggest threat, to hit a double or maybe lose one, and then
good guy on the bum.
Yeah, probably our 3-arm. So we did have some depth. We're lucky that we had depth that year too to overcome an injury like him. But it was good. I think I've only had the best team 2 times in all my years. Because that you look across, you're like, man, that team, they've got more pitching, they've got that. You never tell your kids that, but I think we had the best team in 19, and then I think we had the best team again in 22. But we came up short there. We got beat by the young Hawaii team. We lost 2-1 in the semifinal game. But we kind of shot ourselves in the foot,
Yeah.
The way that state tournament lined up, we were the 1 seed, and we faced Merritt Jones from Idaho Falls, who had never lost a high school game.
And we beat him.
And was going on a full ride to Utah. So we couldn't, not throw our best guy. And we, I can remember it was 1-0, or I think we beat them 1-0.
Yeah, it was a battle. I remember that game.
That's how tough that guy was to score on. And then we faced Hawaii. It had a lot of momentum, at that time, and we'd beat them twice during the year. And we lose a 2-1 ball game. There was a play in the outfield, miscommunication, and then we had another error, and then had a bases loaded, 2 outs, 2 strikes. Unfavorable call 3 where we didn't get another pitch. Not that we would have came through, but the fact we didn't get to see another pitch still chaps me a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. What that 2019 team. So 2003 we were together. I coached with you the 4 years after that. Mm-hmm. After I got done playing, and then I was the head strength guy for you guys. As long as you were there. But that 2019, I was getting married. My wife picked that date. The one time we won a state title, I was out of town. Nick, my cousin, was on the team. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
And he made sure to say, hey, I better not ever come to another state tournament for Mountain View, Next year with 22, or when you were in that team, I was at that one and we lost that. So maybe it was me, the bad juju. Nah. What about like that Riley, O'Neill, Truby, Augie, Garv,
that
Brown?
That
team was nasty too.
Very nasty and very enjoyable group of kids to coach. I mean, they were baseball players, talented, had some swagger to them.
Maybe too much.
Maybe a little much, but fun group of kids. That was a really talented team too. The only thing we fell short with that group, we were down a pitcher. Mm-hmm. Our pitching depth, instead of being 6 or 7 deep that you need to get through a state tournament, we were maybe 3 deep, and so to win 3 games was a lot to ask of that pitching staff. But super good group of kids.
You're going back to it, and I want to focus on the good here in a second. But what's the hardest part for you about coaching? You know what I mean? Maybe I know it was good timing for you in 2019 when you left, or 22 when you left.
22,
right?
Yeah.
Sorry, 22 when you left. But what's the hardest part that you have, that makes you want to come back, or the biggest struggles you have when you're coaching?
Well, my plan, like I said, my plan wasn't to come back. I was done in 22, and that was going to be it. It took the only opportunity probably because of where I work and the timing in my life, and was good to maybe give this another shot. But when you get back into it and you've had a couple years to reflect, you understand what you're getting yourself into. And it's people don't people from the outside that just comes to games, that just come to watch on a Friday night or whatever, they don't understand the labor of love that basically starts in September and it goes through end of May or May, and if you run a good program, it goes to the end of July. So people don't see everything that goes into it for whatever the district pays these coaches. Less than $6,000 a year. You're doing a job that is probably requires more time than your daytime teaching job. It's a lot. But when I got back in, I understood what I'm signing up for. So once you sign up, it's like, what are the things that you enjoy the most and the things that are the necessary evils that you have to do. We usually start with our strength and conditioning, which you guys do. We partner with you guys, and you guys do a good job with us there. And so that's not hard for me. That's enjoyable. And the kids like having that other voice instead of listening to me. For 9 months out of the year, they get to listen to a guy like yourself or Augie, or in this case, I think next year it'll be Wyatt. Wyatt's been with this group, and the kids love that guy. So that part's cool. I'm not worried about the strength and conditioning. We do an arm care throwing program that coexists with the strength training. That part's easy. It's just 2 to 3 times a week. I don't have it down on paper yet. The thing that I hate the most, probably, or I shouldn't say hate, but the fundraising is a pain in the butt.
Yep.
And it's something that never goes away, especially in a young program. Like we have, this vision of building a nice hitting facility, and Coach Wright did a great job of raising money, and he's got some money. When I take over the program, it's not like we're bare bones. He did a good job of leaving us some money to get started with that project. But just begging for money all the time is one thing that I probably don't like at all. Convincing kids, that you're qualified to do the job, or to stay with you in the summertime. Some of the states that have better weather, if you look at like Nevada, like the Vegas area, you look at Arizona, you look at California, those states have fall high school seasons, right? And so they get to stay with, school gets back in session. They have a small fall season. We don't get that here, so we make that up in the summer. So high school baseball coaches normally aren't very involved with their high school athletes in the summer when you live in places like Arizona, Nevada, California. So that's when those kids go play club ball. For us, we don't get a fall, and so we want to run good programs too, and so we try to make up for that lost time in the summertime.
Yeah.
So that conflict of club ball versus high school ball is like I said, I think kids need a little bit of both. I think club serves a purpose, and their high school programs serve a purpose. But if you've been out to the state championship games, there's not a club opportunity that provides, what those kids experienced winning on a Saturday night for the Idaho State title. I still think we have the best product available for a young baseball player. But,
yeah, it's tricky because it wasn't a thing for me back then. You know what I mean? And I think anybody's resistant to change. You know what I mean? But it's tough to fight. I knew that I didn't know that Vegas and Arizona played in the fall. I knew they played all year, because of nice weather, but I didn't know they had that season like that. What do you think about here? Our falls are nicer than our springs now. They usually get
6 weeks, I think, is what.
Our fall's nicer than our spring now.
Right. I don't see Idaho ever going that way because they, at least not now. But what they, and I get it. What Idaho wants is for our athletes, when fall hits, to have the opportunity to play football or run cross country or do something, play soccer or do something other than baseball. And if you approve a fall baseball season, then you're going to pull a lot of kids out of those other sports.
Yep.
And so I'm not against it. It just makes our the 6 weeks that we're trying to get in the summer that much more valuable to us as a high school coach. And so when you don't get your players because they've got club commitments, it's like, man, I really wish I had 6 more weeks to work with these kids.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's the struggle. And I get it. There is some of that exposure stuff is true. There are, some clubs out there that can do some things, provide some things, opportunities for kids that we just can't because they team up, like Hawaii's, top 2 or 3 players team up with Rockies and Mountain Views and other programs, or Middletons or whatever, and they all go someplace together and play. They can put together a pretty good team, and they can compete in some of those tournaments where a single high school team just couldn't go and do very well in, right? So I get that and support it, and some of those kids need to go out and do that. But the more clubs that roll into the valley, the more, depleted they are or watered down they are. So they have the club label, and they charge the club price, but what they're offering in the competition that they're able to provide isn't any, in my opinion, it's not providing what parents think they're signing up for a lot of the times. But
yeah, like I said, it's tough for me at the young age. I think sometimes the product is 10 times better than what I had. Couple dads that maybe a dad that might have played, one guy that played college ball, but the rest of them are just there because they coach t-ball and they're still there and they're the dad and they're trying to get their kid to play, and I see some of the clubs that are ran at the young age and it's like this 12-year-old knows way more about baseball than I ever knew,
Right, 100%.
Like not even close, so we see that. And in the high school level, I think, we're lucky. Most of the club guys are awesome to us, but it's like, how do you make it as synergistic as possible? Even like Brooks and Brody, they played club and it's just like such a
right.
I didn't realize it's more of the season thing. That's crazy.
Well, that's our desire to hang on, right? Otherwise, in reality, you can, Idaho's given us some hours to work with our kids in the winter months.
Yeah.
But it's not a lot, and you're basically getting your kids end of February through May.
Yeah.
And then that's it, and that's just not a lot. And our weather finally turns nice, and then you have to say goodbye. We'll see you when school starts back. But I'm not against the club. I just wish, I guess, as I, try to figure out how to blend a kid's desire to play club baseball and our desire as a program to keep a finger on our kids as much as we can, how to blend the two, how to make them work together. And so working with some of the local clubs that do a good job and are open to that idea is key for me. And I've been out for a couple of years, so looking to build some relationships with some of these people that are kind of new to town or whatever, and seeing if we can kind of coexist. Like, hey, we're going to practice these 2 days a week, and we're going to go to these 3 tournaments. I know you've got 6 guys from our high school program. Is it okay? Can they play with us here, and then you've got them the rest of
everything
the
else?
summer?
Yeah, I love
so
it.
So kind of blending it like that is my goal.
Yeah.
Because I do think there is some benefit to kids maybe hearing instruction from another coach, whatever. But there are, and I just don't want a player to go out to a club practice, pay $2,500, and have one guy hitting fungos and 15 guys out there waiting for a ground ball, because sometimes they, depending on, what club you choose to play for, is more, more organized than others, I guess.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
But
what Brooks, Montana State Billings?
No.
No. So Denver.
He's in Metro State University in
Metro
Denver.
State. That's where he's at. Yep.
So he just he had a little bit of a setback this year as a junior.
Broke his hand
In the 10th, maybe 11th game of the year. Hadn't even started conference play yet, but he had earned himself a starting spot in center field. Good program. They'd been to the Division II regionals the previous 2 seasons. He's sliding into second base. I'm watching it stream at home, and I could tell right away that something was wrong. But so he broke his middle finger bone down in the hand, and they put 8 screws in it and a plate.
Left hand though.
It's his left hand, not his throwing hand. But it took him, so he was, once he had the surgery, he's rehabbing for the rest of the school year. Did at the end, as they were starting their playoff run, he got to go participate in practice and do everything full speed. So he was taking live at-bats and doing stuff like that. So he'll go back for his senior year. He's going to play for the Walla Walla Sweets
Sweet.
this summer.
Heck yeah.
He missed a lot of action, so he's going to try to get himself back in shape and come back for his senior year. He'll graduate next year. He'll have a medical red shirt. It's up to him. I don't know what he'll do past his senior year and he graduates, if he'll continue to play or not. But I'm just glad he has an opportunity to play this summer. And
the Sweets are a good program, man.
Yeah, another shot to go. At least one more season, if not two.
Yeah, and then Brody's at Lassen. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, so
he's got a shot. I mean, my dad saw him, said he's a giant now, so he's got a real shot to maybe play somewhere big.
He's somewhere down the road. I screwed up, and he's only 20 years old, and he's done with 2 years of college. So
young buck.
He's a young buck, and he just missed the COVID stuff. So so he's played 2 years of college baseball. The last one, he played his first year at Blue Mountain, and then he moved to California and played his second year at Lassen, which is also a community college. So now he's done with community college baseball and trying to figure out what he will do as a junior and a senior. This summer he's playing in New York, in Little Falls.
Jeez.
Yeah, which is pretty cool for him.
Awesome.
The Diamond Dogs, it's a league in upstate New York, and I thought it was a good opportunity for him to maybe go see part of the country and become a little more independent and do some things. But he had a really good year. He led the team, and he hit 420, hit 9 home runs, led the team in extra base hits, RBIs. Had a really good year. He's got some offers. He's kind of trying to decide what to do. He was just named first team all-conference, and he was named first team all-state of California.
Damn.
And that just happened 2 days ago. So when that list gets publicized, some of those guys that were teetering on maybe offering or not might come through. But, yeah, he's got, at the end of the day, it's finding the right fit. He's not a D1 or bust guy.
But he's got a couple Division I's, huh?
He does. But it's doing your homework, man. So I went and picked him up from college last weekend, and it was okay, here's who's got money on the table. What do you think about this one? Let's look up their roster. How many outfielders are they losing? How many guys are coming back? But this day and age, that doesn't really matter either, right? Because the transfer portal. A coach can go get any outfielder that he wants or just like that. So the game has changed. But he's gotten lots of calls, lots of attention, and he has a place to play. It's just a matter of where he decides to plant some roots. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. So, he was one of the toughest outs to watch. I mean, I always think with Brooks. I mean, I think Brooks could hit 300 at any level. You pay him to play. I mean, he would just compete. He had that same thing with you. I mean, seriously. I mean, he never strikes out, competes. It doesn't matter who's on the bump.
It's weird that. They're 17 months apart in age, but their 2 games they don't mirror each other at all. They're totally different. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Little lefty guy like a I don't know, like a Rod Carew almost. No, not even when you say Tony Gwynn, I'd say like a Rod Carew versus Brody, who's capable. Obviously, he hit 420 in California JUCO ball, which is pretty good, but. He can get into one too. He can hit one off the scoreboard from time to time. So I don't think Brooks is. Well, who knows? He's still got another year. Maybe he'll get one out. But yeah,
I love it, man. Yeah. Well, Matty, it's going to be weird seeing you in the red now. I always give Cliff Rice some smack because he stole my logo. I always say he owes me some money for those copyrights stealing my O. But it's gonna be weird seeing you in the red. But I'm excited to have you back, man. Coaching again, we're juiced, man.
I'm excited too. It's it's kind of, I don't know if it's hit me full circle. We have our first practice tomorrow.
Sweet.
Over at Hawaii. It'll be the first time I'm back on the field in a couple years, and I have to go. Either stop at Dick's or Shields or something because I don't even have any black shorts to wear out to practice to swing my fungo in. Everything I got is still blue. So, finding a wardrobe will be the first objective. But it'll be fun. I know that program's got a great culture. They've got some great coaches on staff there, and obviously some talented kids. I don't know how many of them we'll see this summer because they're out exploring, doing events to promote themselves and whatnot. But whoever does show up, we're going to give them everything they want this summer and keep this ball rolling.
Well, man, you changed my life, let me coach. I mean, it made me want to do this, and then you put us on the map, let me coach you your baseball team year one. Had no idea what we were doing, but lot different now, man.
We had a good time in Boulder. I remember that.
Yeah, we did. We did have a good time. We had a good time. Yep, a lot of good times, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, Matty.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it, man.